Okay. I didn't plan that. That was 23.4 seconds of your life you'll never get back, plus I don't know how many seconds, that 23.4 seconds of me playing guitar that you'll never get your life back in your life, and I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more seconds of my dog peeing that you will never get back in your life, and I'm really sorry. Hello there, thrill seekers. You know, somebody pointed out that she'd shown one of these videos to a friend of hers and was like, oh, this is a good Zen video. And this friend was like, it was just nothing but music. Turned it off. And that, she feared that people were turning off my videos because the musical intros and they think they're not Zen videos. Actually, it's part of my strategy. Maybe this is, people might call this self-sabotage, but I don't think of it as self-sabotage. I actually like putting people off a bit. I like there to be some barriers to getting into my stuff. I want there to be a few things in the way to make it a little bit more difficult. And one of the reasons is because I don't want to get any more popular than I am now. I mean, I feel like I've reached a point where I'm barely comfortable with it. In Germany this year, 46 people signed up for the retreat that I did, and that was really, I was kind of overwhelmed. I don't know how I would manage if 100 people showed up or hundreds of people showed up, as did with certain Zen masters, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I don't know how they manage. Well, I think I know how they manage, is they get assistants to deal with stuff, and then you don't actually get to have a retreat with the famous master. You get a retreat with his assistants. It seems a little cheesy to me, but that's how it goes if you're super famous. So, be that as it may, I've just wasted 2 more minutes of your life with irrelevance. So I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. The thing I wanted to talk about in terms of Zen today is something in Shobogenzo, and it came up during, I believe, my retreat in England this year in Hebden Bridge. One of my retreats just suddenly sort of sparked to mind, and I read this quote from a certain piece of Shobogenzo, and I really like it, and I thought I would sort of try to revisit it outside of the context. And it's from one of my favorite chapters, Sokushin Zeibutsu, Mind Here and Now is Buddha, and it's from Shobogenzo, Volume 1. If you're looking at the Nishijima Cross version, I'm sure it's contained in other versions of Shobogenzo, but this is the one I like the best. It must be in my book, Sit Down and... No, not Sit Down and... Well, it's probably in Sit Down and Shut Up, but it's definitely in my book, Don't Be a Jerk, because I covered all of the chapters that are in... Volume 1 of the Nishijima Cross version, but I don't remember what I said about it in there, but it must be in there somewhere. Anyway, let's read Nishijima Roshi's intro to the thing and tell you what he said. So here's what he says about it. Soku means here and now, so Sokushin Zeibutsu. Shin means mind, Zei means is, Butsu means Buddha. The principle of Sokushin Zeibutsu, or mind here and now is Buddha, is very famous in Buddhism, but many people have interpreted the principle to support the beliefs in naturalism. They say that if our mind here and now is just Buddha, our conduct must always be right, and in that case we need not make any effort to understand or to realize Buddhism. However, this interpretation is a serious mistake. The principle Sokushin Zeibutsu, mind here and now is Buddha, must be understood not from the standpoint of the intellect, but from the standpoint of practice. In other words, the principle does not mean belief in something spiritual called mind, but it affirms the time now and the place here as reality itself. So Buddha can be another way of saying reality in Buddhism. The word Buddha kind of means anything you want it to mean, which is sort of fascinating to me. It's interesting to me when I read, and I haven't read these extensively, but whenever I read bits of Christian mysticism, often the word Christ is extended to mean not just the guy who lived and got crucified and everything like that. But it means like this world we're living in, or the universe. And the same thing happened with Buddhism, only it became much more sort of strong in Buddhism. It became kind of a mainstream understanding, at least within Mahayana Buddhism, whereas within Christianity, Christ, I think, is generally understood to mean that guy. But the mystics kind of do the same thing as the Buddhists do, where they say sort of Christ meaning a general, like the universe, the sort of holiness of the universe. So when he says, when Nishijima Roshi says, it affirms the time and place now here, the time now and the place here as reality itself, so we can call them the truth or Buddha. That's what. So in this case, he's interpreting the word Buddha to mean truth. And in this chapter, Master Dogen explained this meaning of Sokushinzei Butsu, or mind here and now, as Buddha. So let's just read a little bit of his chapter, and then I want to get you to my favorite part, which is the ending. So spoiler alert. No. Well, I'm not going to read you the whole chapter, but I'm mainly going to focus on the ending. So I'm not going to go from the very first line. I'm going to get a few lines into the chapter. He says, when stupid people hear talk of mind here and now is Buddha. This is one of the things Dogen does, and people think when they're reading my sort of punk rock versions in Sit Down and Shut Up and Don't Be a Jerk, and what's the other one called? Oh, God. It Came from Beyond Zen, that's what it's called. So they think that when I interpret Dogen and I have him saying things like stupid people or dunderheads or whatever I put in there to make it sound more modern, that I'm interpolating sort of a punk rock attitude. But no, this is right here in the standard interpretation, standard translation. So when stupid people hear talk of mind here and now is Buddha, they interpret that ordinary beings' intellect and sense perception, which have never established the Bodhi mind, the mind of enlightenment, are just Buddha. This derives from never having met a true teacher. The reason I say that they become non-Buddhists is that there was a non-Buddhist in India called Seneca. And Seneca is not Seneca of the Greek philosopher Seneca, and nothing to do with him. I need to go look up Seneca. I came across a book which, when I was in Europe, that probably would have explained it all to me, but it was really heavy and I didn't want to carry it home. So one of these days I'm going to have to look up exactly who Seneca is. But Dogen often uses Seneca as an example of somebody who sort of claimed to be a Buddhist but really wasn't. And so he calls him a non-Buddhist. And Seneca, whose viewpoint is expressed as follows. So this is Seneca's viewpoint. The great truth exists in our own body now, so we can easily recognize its situation. In other words, a spiritual intelligence distinguishes between pain and pleasure, naturally senses cold and warmth, and recognizes discomfort and irritation. The spiritual intelligence is neither restricted by myriad things nor connected with circumstances. Things come and go, and circumstances arise and pass, but the spiritual intelligence always remains unchanging. This spiritual intelligence is all around, pervading all souls, common and sacred, without distinction. And by the way, that spiritual intelligence, I did look it up one time, and I don't remember exactly what the Chinese characters were, but they were the characters for spiritual and the character for intelligence. So Nishijima and Cross are just giving us a really direct interpretation. Okay, in its midst of this spiritual intelligence, I guess, illusory flowers in space exist for the time being. Flowers in space is like I did a video on this where I put a picture of the pigs in space on the cover, not the cover. What do you call those things? The thumbnail. From the Muppet Show. But that's just the meaning is like illusory things that don't really exist, and I think it's to have to do with what people with cataracts sometimes see as things that look like flowers hanging in the air. What does it say? Yeah. These for the time being. But when momentary insight has appeared and things have vanished and circumstances have disappeared, then the spiritual intelligence, the original essence, alone is clearly recognizable, peaceful, and eternal. Though the physical form may be broken, the spiritual intelligence departs unbroken, just as when a house burns down in a fire, the master of the house leaves, and so forth and so on. There's a lot more to it than that, but he kind of is saying, to me, even though the intro doesn't say this, it feels to me like this would be a perfect example that Nishijima Roshi could have used to prove that Dogen's Buddhism was not idealism. So he always made a distinction between materialism, idealism, and Buddhism, saying that Buddhism was neither materialism nor idealism. Now, everybody knows, and I say this all the time, that Buddhism is not materialism, I assume. I assume that's a very well understood thing. But most people tend to assume that if Buddhism isn't materialism, it must be idealism. And idealism is not just... often the word idealism is used as a synonym for optimism. I'm idealistic. I want everything to be good. He's talking, Nishijima Roshi, when he talked about idealism, was talking about philosophical idealism, which is basically the view that Seneca is giving here, or Dogen is giving as Seneca's view, because I don't know any of the actual words of Seneca himself, but he's saying that there's this kind of ideal, there's this kind of mind which is separate from matter, that is kind of the reality. So the reality is the reality of mind, whereas matter is something different and something to be, we just don't worry about that, and that eventually we'll depart from this material body and go live in the spiritual world. This is what the Hare Krishnas preached. When I first started getting into Eastern religions, as people who watch these videos know already, one of the first places I stopped at was the Hare Krishna temple, which when I was living in Chicago, it was like 2 blocks away. So I used to go there a lot, and they had delicious food. Every Sunday they put on this big free feast, and I was poor and I loved their food, so I went there probably every Sunday. Anyway, so their preaching was definitely this, that there's a spiritual essence inside us that departs the material body, and not a lot of people see that as Buddhism, but a lot of people see Buddhism as a kind of as a different form of idealism. But Dogen was different, and to me, the bit of this chapter that really kind of pushes this, and it's something I have talked about before, so sorry to bore some of you people who watch. If you watch all these videos, God bless you. God bless you. That's all I can say, because I make these videos with the intention that probably most people don't watch all of them, and therefore I can repeat whatever I want, because most of my viewers haven't seen the other videos where I said the same damn thing. But God bless you if you watch all of them. Anyway, because some people have said they do. Here is the part that I like, and this is the part that I read to the group, or at least I think I read this to the group in England. You guys in England can tell me if I read this, because I remember thinking about this, and yeah, my memory is crap. Anyway, here we go. An ancient patriarch said, "What is fine, pure, and bright mind? It is mountains, rivers, and the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars." So that right there tells you that mind is not, in Dogen's viewpoint, something other than matter. But he's going to really pound it home. So let me read you where he pounds it home, and some of you have heard this already. Clearly, mind is mountains, rivers, and the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. But what these words say is, when we are moving forward, not enough, and when we are drawing back, too much. This is, I believe what he's saying here is that we often take these things too far, or we don't take them far enough. So Dogen is trying to give us the sort of middle way, the sort of just right view on this. So he says, mind as mountains, rivers, and the earth is nothing other than mountains, rivers, and the earth. There are no additional waves or surf, no wind or smoke. I'm not sure why he comes up with those examples, but I get what he's saying, and he's probably waxing poetic here a little bit, but he's just trying to give you the idea that mind here and now is, mind is mountains, rivers, and the earth mind is those mountains, which I don't think you'd even see if I tilted up, but there's some mountains behind me, and rivers, which, there's the LA River, which is dry, and the earth. So it's those mountains, those rivers, this earth. There's no additional waves or surf, no wind or smoke. So there's nothing else. There's nothing ethereal behind it. Now, or maybe there is, but it is the ethereal. Mind as the sun, the moon, and the stars is nothing other than the sun, the moon, and the stars. There is no additional fog or mist. So I think he's saying there's no confusion. There's no sort of mystery about it. It's that sun up there, that moon which had an eclipse last night or the night before. Those stars which you could see next to the eclipse. It's that mountain. That sun, moon, and stars. Mind as living and dying, coming and going, is nothing other than living and dying, coming and going. There is no additional delusion or realization. So you don't divide delusion and realization. It's this. Mind as fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles is nothing other than fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles. There is no additional mud or water. Mind as the 4 elements and the 5 aggregates. These are just, I won't go into the details, but these are just kind of ways that Buddhists kind of divide things up in the material world. Mind as the 4 elements and 5 aggregates is nothing other than the 4 elements and 5 aggregates. There is no additional horse or monkey, and we have a footnote, helpful footnote that explains that. It alludes to horse will and monkey mind. The horse represents the restless will, and the monkey represents the mischievous intellect. Mind as a chair or a whisk is nothing other than a chair or a whisk. There is no additional bamboo or wood. Because the state is like this, mind here and now is Buddha, is untainted mind here and now is Buddha. And he goes on for a little while, and I'll let you go buy yourself a copy of the book and read the rest because it's nice, or you can look in my version of it in, it's in Don't Be a Jerk for sure, and it might be also in Sit Down and Shut Up. Anyway, the idea is that it's not that there is mind out there, or there's this sort of internal, external, I don't know what you call it, mind that is something other than matter. So mind and matter are one and the same, and that's what he's saying. So they're not two different things, which is what idealism usually proposes, which is that there is this ideal state of mind that is something other than matter. And Ziggy, are you going to do that? You did this on the last video. Why are you doing that? What are you barking at? Shh. Ziggy. Oh, he's barking at the other dogs. There's other dogs barking, so he's got to join in. You don't know what they're barking at. Maybe they're not barking at anything.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
So where was I? I just spent some moments hushing Ziggy that I'll cut out of the video. But the idea is that this is it. So the great revelation, the great wonderful understanding of mind here and now is Buddha. The great thing that you're looking for, that enlightenment that you're meditating for, if you're meditating for an enlightened state or an enlightenment experience, is this. It's this experience. Is this experience you're having right now. This is it. Okay, Ziggy's just barking, and I think I've made my point anyway, so I'm gonna go. If you want to contribute to me making more confusing videos like this, you can go to the URL that you're seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main way of making a living, and I appreciate your support. But as always, you don't got to support me if you don't want to support me. Okay, we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. I got tickets to see Jesus and Mary Chain in about a month, I think, November or something or other. So, that's a little more than a month. And I'm kind of excited because I've always liked Jesus and Mary Chain. So, we'll see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Did I say that already? Well, I'm saying it again. Bye. Hey, Ziggy. Ziggy, what you woofing at? What you woofing at, huh? Are you woofing at something? Are you woofing because those other dogs are woofing? Are you going to try to catch one of those flies that keeps flying by? He likes to catch flies. I've never seen him catch one, but he tries. All right, let's go inside and edit the video, okay, Betty? Okay?